All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Giant Hot Takes podcast, your home for the hottest takes by the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, Jack, and I'm joined by a special guest, Grayson, with Everything Yankees. Before we get going, please make sure to go down and subscribe to this page. Follow all of our accounts. Follow his accounts will be in the description. And join the exclusive Chat BCC group chat. Exclusive benefits there, giveaways. I know Grayson also has one for the Yankees fans listening, so join that down below. Thanks for coming on, Grayson. Do you kind of want to introduce yourself to the listeners, how long you've been covering the Yankees? Obviously, the Instagram's a huge page. I know you've transitioned over to X, but just give us a little bit of an introduction.
Yeah, happy to be here. My name's Grayson. Started back in 2017. I've grown ever since as my baseball knowledge has improved. It's been fun to continue, and here we are. Excited to talk some baseball.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I mean, he was a big inspiration for me, even going over to Instagram. Are you at 73,000 over on Instagram now?
A little short of that, but getting there.
Yeah, unbelievable.
72.5.
He's on the race to 100,000. Giants fans, go follow him. I mean, March 25th looms here on Netflix. Good chance we'll both be there, but a joke that Netflix is. Let's start that off there. What's your thought about this new deal that the MLB has struck?
I had a feeling it was coming sooner than later. It obviously happened with the NFL, or they do it on Christmas. I know. I think NBA is obviously branching out to Prime and stuff. You had a feeling it was going to come sooner than later, and here we are. And then it's weird. They might even take the postseason rights I saw, which would be something,
Yeah, it'd be something. It's not something Giants fans usually have to worry about, postseason games and rights. But getting into the topic of the day, you see it on the thumbnail, winter meetings preview. Grayson's probably the most knowledgeable baseball fan I know. Giants and Yankees kind of have similar needs. They obviously play each other to kick off the MLB season, so I thought it would be great to have him on, get his perspective about the Giants, about the Yankees, kind of give my perspective on some of all the free agents. So kind of the pacing of this episode, we will be going through all of the deals that have happened, which have been a good bit before winter meetings. We'll be going over the free agent class as a whole, including fits for the Yankees and the Giants, and then we'll be going through potential trade candidates and finish it up with Q&A for both of these teams. So it should be a fun episode. Once again, if you want to get those questions in, always look at our stories. Look at my story the day before a podcast. But we're going to get this thing going. The offseason's off to a very fast start. I think faster than even you and I anticipated. We're going to take a look at the deals and how they impacted the market. So starting it off, it's December 3rd as we're recording this. To kick it off, November 16th, Josh Naylor re-signed with the Mariners. 5 years, $92.5 million. First baseman, he had a really good year. What was your initial thoughts on that Naylor deal?
Yeah. Initial thought, obviously good for the Mariners. I thought, I had him in the range of 125, so that looked obviously like a bargain at first. And I think that's, it seemed he really fell in love with Seattle. I know he's been Cleveland and then Arizona for half a year, and then Seattle, but he really seemed like he enjoyed that place. And I feel like it was kind of a mutual fit, I'm sure that the Mariners are happy to have him back, and he's happy to return there. But, I mean, the years, I expected him to get 5'6" in length, but I thought the AAV would be certainly higher than that, but obviously pretty shocked. I'd say of the deals we've seen so far, I'm definitely most shocked on that, we can get into C soon, but I know a lot of people were not very high on him, but I think that'll be a pretty good deal. I know a lot of people are the opposite of that. They think that's an overpay. I don't feel that way about it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get into Cease right after this. But yeah, I mean, first thoughts for me, it was just good for the Mariners. I mean, they speak of Moneyball that we think the Giants are playing. The Mariners haven't, it's one of their longer contracts of all time. They spent, I know where
the
it
Julio
falls.
one they signed 2022 or 3, whenever it was. I know that was the biggest, and that'll probably be the biggest for a while for them. And then I know they inked Raleigh about a year ago, and now Naylor. But yeah, they're getting there, I like they have a good core in place, and we'll see how they are. But I think they'll regress a little bit offensively, but the pitching should be good again.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And I just love the way Josh Naylor plays baseball. I mean, you saw it in that series. I mean, was it the 15 or 16 inning game, just stealing bags? Really fun to watch. So good for the Mariners, good for Naylor. Happy he's out of the NL West. Rolled into the qualifying offer, guys. There was 4 guys that accepted the qualifying offer. You got the Yankees with Trent Grisham, Tigers with former Yankee Gleyber Torres, Brewers pitcher Brandon Woodruff, Cubs pitcher Imanaga. We'll start with Trent Grisham. I know, rightfully so or unrightfully so, a lot of Yankees were kind of up in arms about that deal. What was your initial thoughts on bringing Grisham back? Qualifying offers, around $22 million? So yeah. What was your thoughts on that?
I did expect them to offer the QO to him. Obviously, I wasn't so sure he was going to take it because if you're Grisham, right? I mean, this year he had was obviously the best year he's had by a fair margin, right? And
Yep.
he's essentially going to bank on himself again in 26. So if he has a good year, he'll obviously hit the market, probably get like a 3-4 year deal, I assume. But if not, I would say his is probably the most risky because I don't know, he doesn't really have that track record like some of these other guys have, So we'll see.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it hasn't necessarily taken you out of like the Tucker, the Bellinger sweepstakes either, right? Or do you think it has?
Yeah, I know Cashman's mentioned how the bringing Grisham back doesn't affect the Bellinger pursuit. That's still their top target. So we'll see. I mean, it is a 1 year deal in the end, and the Yankees didn't really have like a center fielder they can bank on essentially on their active roster right now. So, like obviously, I don't think they're comfortable with moving Judge back to center. He did that a couple years ago. About an average defender, and obviously he's getting up there now. He'll be 33. They don't like.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Dominguez, they don't feel comfortable there, and then Bellinger, he played some center this year, but he wasn't elite.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Going over to Gleyber Torres, I was kind of surprised he took this, but I don't think I should have been in hindsight. He was kind of a guy that we've talked about personally as a good fit for the Giants. Contract was projected in that 3 to 57 range. I personally, I didn't really know what to think of Gleyber's market. I think he's hated on, in my opinion, a little bit too much. I think he's a good contact guy. Defense is all right. What's your thoughts on Gleyber Torres back to the Tigers? Kind of an interesting offseason the Tigers have ahead.
Yeah, very interesting. I'd agree. I was kind of 50-50 on him too with that, but I think a big reason he might have took it is because he's actually undergoing a surgery right now. So if that didn't go as to plan, some teams might have been reluctant to give him like a lengthier deal. So he'll come back, take the AAV, and hopefully have a good year, cash in next offseason, But
yeah,
I did see the Giants as a fit for him, as we've mentioned with Posey. He kind of his profile is kind of that bat to ball guy, doesn't K a lot, So
it was definitely going to be an interesting fit with the qualifying offer. I'm curious to see if the Giants do go for qualifying offer guys. We'll discuss later. Didn't read much into Woodruff besides it might open the Peralta market a little bit more. Imanaga saw a lot of Giants fans excited about. It was never really moving me on a 3-year, $45 million deal and losing draft picks. I think you'd agree on that. Yep. And then the first trade of the offseason, I believe, or the first big trade, was the Taylor Ward deal for Grayson Rodriguez straight up. I know I mentioned on my last video Taylor Ward is a potential fit for the Giants. Grayson Rodriguez, up and down, injury history, very high ceiling, coming from that AL East. What'd you initially think of this deal? I thought Grayson Rodriguez had a little more value than this, but I can kind of see how injuries played a role. What was your thoughts on that deal?
I mean, I just remember Mike Elias, the president of baseball operations for the Orioles, he came over from Houston about 7-8 years ago now, and I just remember how I thought he was going to be, and a lot of the baseball world did, would be the next big bad thing, and it just hasn't happened. I'm a little stunned at that trade. Obviously, there's a lot of injury history with Rodriguez. You're moving off him, but you're also banking on that ceiling. If he's healthy, he's a front of the line rotation arm. And 1 year Taylor Ward, I don't know. After they just paid Tyler O'Neill last year, I don't know. I thought the Orioles could have made a couple different moves there, prioritized pitching rather than that. But we'll see. I think even if you're obviously going to have a lot of question marks with the history and risk with Rodriguez. He didn't throw a pitch last year, but I think you bank on that upside. He's under control for 4 more years. His Ward is just 1 year, so I like that for Perry Managian for sure.
Just incredible knowledge throwing out names right there. But yeah, no, Rodriguez, I didn't realize it was 4 years of control. I mean, I remember playing, not a good source of information, but playing with his MLB The Show card 2 years ago. Just an incredible fastball with some life. But excited to see him. Wouldn't hurt me if the Angels got above 500. It's always nice going down to Angel Stadium, as long as the Giants don't get shut out in a Logan Webb masterclass that we experience. But yeah, we'll revisit that one later. A deal I think I was pretty stunned by texting you. Braves re-signed Iglesias 1 year, $16 million. I think kind of screwed the reliever market, as we'll get into later. But what was your thoughts on that? Because he didn't have that great of a year. $16 million AAV is a ton, and I think it kind of set up teams like the Giants and Yankees to have to spend up more on high leverage guys.
They don't like that move at all. I know the Braves, I don't really know about the Braves front office either. I don't think they have a great plan. And it's also I guess with 1 year deals, you're obviously going to pay more average annual value, right? Whereas a shorter term deal, like the free deal last year, the Yankees gave more years in length and to lower the AAV. But with a 1 year deal, you have to overpay a little bit for the year. But I had him in the range of like 12 to 13. I thought he'd get like a 228 maybe, or in that range even. So I certainly thought it was an overpay. And it's just like, this is another move the Braves did. They acquired a reliever from Colorado last year at the deadline, Tyler Kinley.
Yeah.
Had a really good back half of the year after the Braves acquired him. Then they non-tendered him. I think he was like $4 million they non-tendered him for, but like at that price compared to Iglesias, I certainly would have preferred that. So I don't know what their plan is, you know. We'll see.
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of not really knowing what their plan is, Giants strike big, get Joey Weimer, left-handed masher from the Marlins, and Gabe Kapler. And I'm not gonna sit here and complain about a guy trying to be a platoon bat. But if you're getting, I think it was a non-tender DFA with the Miami Marlins, it's probably not an awesome player. Have you had any experience watching Weimer? But I mean, what do you think of this? I certainly don't think you can roll in with him and Gilbert as a platoon in right field, but what's your thoughts on Weimer?
Yeah, I remember he came up, I think it was 21 with Milwaukee. He kind of lit the world on fire briefly, right? And then after that, it was just downhill since. You know, he floated around Kansas City, Cincinnati, then Miami. He had a little cup of coffee at the end of this year, but just hasn't worked out, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Cup of coffee, what a quote right there. Rolling into like a big blockbuster deal. Frank Fleming over there was not very pleased about a shocker. The former Cal Golden Bear Marcus Semien gets traded to the Mets in a true blockbuster. They send Brandon Nimmo back, like a 1-for-1 deal. Frank Fleming says Brandon Nimmo is on a fast track to superstardom. What was your initial thoughts on this? I mean, I know you and I talked about Giants potentially in the Semien market early on, but just seemed like a very weird deal for both teams at initial thoughts.
I guess the Mets, you know, they're kind of trying to move off that outfield, you know, now, I guess. And I don't know. I kind of like it for the Mets, honestly. They're gonna get off that deal sooner, right? I know Nimmo has 5 years left, whereas Semien has 3, and I think it's kind of a precursor to like a potential McNeil deal. I know there was some disconnection between McNeil and Lindor towards the end of this year, obviously, when the Mets kind of crumbled out of things, right? So I think that's kind of was part of the reason, you know, they're trying to open up that hole. And I think the Mets, obviously, they feel comfortable with their outfield. I know they're in the market for current outfielders. Like if a Buxton becomes available, I see them as a great fit for sure. Maybe I know they're in the Bellinger market. I don't know if they give him 7 years, so we'll see. But I think they're trying to go a different route. You know, I kind of like that for both sides, I guess, but it's mostly just a salary dump, you know.
Yeah, no, just an interesting deal. Like I feel like you don't see those deals in baseball that often. Going into another trade, got some fun AL East conversations here for the next 4. You got Sonny Gray to the Red Sox, Cards, Eaton 20 mil, I believe. I mean, it's a pretty hefty contract. Innings eater, which I think inflates the WAR a bit. Giants were interested in Sonny Gray. I mean, the numbers weren't awesome last year. I don't think it's that much of an overreaction to say just penciling him as the number 2 starter behind Crochet is like that huge of a deal. But kind of what do you think about Sonny Gray to the Red Sox?
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think he's probably like a better 3 at this point. But, you know, obviously, I don't know. I kind of feel like the Red Sox need to get more of a needle mover to help the rotation to pair with Crochet. Like, after now, like Crochet and Gray, it's kind of like some question marks in the air. So we'll see. I know Giolito's a free agent, but I really expected them to be in the market for like a more top front of the line guy, like a Joe Ryan makes sense, like one of those type guys. Mackenzie Gore, if he becomes available, which it seems like he may, you know. So are they done in the rotation? I don't know. We'll see. But if that's the only move they make, I don't love it. And I think St. Louis did pretty well in that deal.
Yeah, no, it's just interesting because they have a plethora of young arms over there too, and they have obviously Crochet's front line as it gets. Curious to see what their offseason looks like. I know you've said in San Francisco a couple times to some young men that they're not going to spend anything, but we will see there. Going into Dylan Cease, the blockbuster deal of the offseason so far. Kind of a stunner. Signs with the Blue Jays, 7 years, 210. Blue Jays, I guess, are going not all in. Like they're spending money. They've always had the money to spend. They offered Ohtani a hefty number when he hit free agency. Looks like free agents are more inclined to go there. No, you're not the biggest Blue Jays guy, but I personally like Cease. I know you like Cease. Let's kind of dive into Cease here.
Yeah, a lot of people hate that move, but typically what it means when a lot of people hate that move is it's a pretty good move, I feel like. And I think Cease had a lot of bad luck go for him last year. Like I know his ERA was super inflated, but I think there's a lot better. The stuff is there. Obviously, the strikeout numbers, and he's been pretty durable to this point. You know, I think you're banking on a front of the line guy there, and obviously I thought he'd get like probably 6 180, 6 160,
Yeah, I think that's what
160
it
to
was.
80 range,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The Blue Jays aren't playing around, and I was a little surprised to see that move come ahead of the winter meetings, but it certainly sets the free agent starting pitcher market. So it'll be interesting to see like what Valdez lands, those type of guys below. You know, Gallen. I know the Giants are in on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it came pretty early, not like a hint of he was talking to anybody. Allegedly, the Giants made a call. The Giants probably made a call and got hung up on. So that's what I imagine the interest was like. Ryan Helsley to the Orioles, 2 years, $28 million. Another bullpen guy that our teams didn't go after. Seems like that bullpen market for those high leverage guys was right around 13 to 16 million. Would have made sense for the Giants to go get one of those guys, I'd imagine, but it seems as if we might be going dumpster diving. Speak of not dumpster diving, the Mets go after Devin Williams, 3 years at $50 million. Kind of, what was your initial thoughts on the deal and Devin Williams' career as a Yankee? Because it was rather brief.
Yeah, I think 3 years 50 is about the range I expected for Williams. I think it's a fair deal for sure. I like it for the Mets. You know, I was talking to one of my buddies, Jack, who's a Mets fan. Actually, we've kind of had a feeling about Williams being a Met since the summer. You know, obviously David Stearns came from Milwaukee, who was there with Williams, and the results, they weren't great. It was a lot of bad luck, but I think there's certainly a lot of upside to that signing, and I think he'll be good there. I did want the Yankees to bring him back. I never thought it was super. I never thought they were super serious about bringing him back. I know they mentioned it a couple weeks ago, you know, but it wasn't a great season. Obviously, it was kind of like one of those deals where you thought it'd be like work out no matter what, you know, like a proven high leverage closer who's been dominant pretty much his whole career. And, you know, he had spurts where he was dominant, but it just didn't really work out like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, 3 years, $50 million. I know the Giants don't have that much money to spend, but like I do that deal. It's a good closer. Like they have nobody back there right now. Looks like it's going to be an open competition type of thing. Another guy the Giants were linked to, don't know about the Yankees' interest, Cody Ponce. I don't know if that's how you say his name, Blue Jays, 3 years, $30 million. I mean, according to Andrew Baggerly over on, I don't even know what the app is, like Blue, yeah, on Blue Sky. It was out of the Giants market. So this could mean one of two things. I did like the overreactions from myself and others included that $30 million was too much for the Giants, but I do think it just meant for a player coming from overseas, not that much of a track record, that it was kind of out of their market, which could make sense, but kind of what'd you think of him? He obviously had a great year. 3 years, $30 million seems like a pretty cheap deal for a guy like that.
As another move I like for Toronto, you know, he was briefly in the States before he went back to the KBO, but I think he's been there for the last 3 years now. But at that price, you're pretty much banking on like some of that success to translate, you know, and I like that move. We've seen that a lot lately. Like Miles Michaelis did it a handful of years ago. Some other guys come over, take the Japanese, Korean route, come back, cash in, and then, you know, it's worked out. So I like that move. But
yeah, no, good move, very low risk. It's kind of all the moves that have happened. I know there was a couple today, a couple like lower end relievers signed today. Didn't really have them on the list. But going into what everybody's here for, Giants needs plus Yankees needs plus free agent targets. I'll start us off. I mean, Giants obviously need some starting pitching help. 2 arms, I think, would be great. They need one high leverage guy, and if they want to upgrade right field or second base, it's certainly a possibility. We'll get into specific names, but kind of just since we have a lot of Giants and Yankees fans listening at the same time, what's kind of the Yankees needs? Because I feel like they have a pretty interesting offseason as well.
yeah, I think there's 2 things they're pretty much going to target. Obviously, it's another outfielder and then like a front of the line rotation arm. So, and then they'll obviously shore up the bullpen. I don't know. Kind of have a hard time seeing the Yankees spend at the top of the food chain for these relievers. Like they've been tied to Diaz. I can't see them going like 5 years for a reliever at this point. I think they'll be more interested in that like trade market for relievers and maybe even starters. But I do think Tatsuya Imai, this big starter coming over. You know, I thought both of our teams were 1 and 2 in the fits. I know the Giants came out; stating they're not going to spend that type of money. So, I really do feel like he'll be a Yankee. It feels like, and there's been too much smoke to it around that market. You know.
Yeah, no,
they've been out.
it certainly seems like it's trending that way. I mean, you had all the things coming out. He wants to beat the Dodgers, and you instantly think of the Giants. You instantly think of the Yankees. I think the Mets have had some interest, potentially the Red Sox, but it seems like that market's certainly thinning out, which is a great thing for Yankees fans. I just can't believe I'm sitting here again in my apartment where reading articles that we're not going to commit long-term money to pitching, which I can understand, but you want to commit short-term money to a qualifying offer guy like a Zach Gallen, lose the draft pick. It's not a huge draft pick guy, but anybody you can get in this farm system that's been horrible for a decade just doesn't make sense. Tatsuya, he's 27 years old, turning 28 this year. Frontline stuff, has some command issues, but kind of how do you see him translating over to the MLB? And it's obviously... I mean, every signing comes with risk. I hate the risky word because that's what they were saying with Vitello. But kind of what do you see Amai doing to the Yankees if they were to get him?
Yeah, I think every guy that obviously comes over, it's definitely a step up, right? I mean, this is definitely the best league in the world for baseball, right? But, I mean, we've been saying that, like you said. Like, obviously we've seen Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki had a better postseason. So, I mean, it's been working for the most part. So I think you need to eliminate that risk factor and kind of just go for it because there's been so many times like the Yankees have missed on in the Japanese market and it's come back to bite them. Like obviously Yamamoto, they actually offered a bigger deal than the Dodgers did, right? But he chose theirs. So like I think you just need to go with that. You can't really worry about the risk factor anymore, and it does seem like a perfect fit for so many reasons.
Yeah, I just hate the risk factor argument. Like there was not people talking. Like, I'm sure there was people talking about the risk factor with Corbin Burns, but that's been a total fiasco. Like there's risk with any signing, guys. So try to not focus on that. Going to Framber Valdez. I mean, I was a huge proponent of if he was on the trade block, the Giants should look to get him. I think he'd be a very fun fit with Logan Webb at the top of that rotation. They both get a ton of ground balls. Obviously, we're probably not going to be at the top of this market, but kind of where do you see Framber's market going? Obviously 2 years older than Cease, but I'd imagine his AAV is going to come in around the same at around $30 million.
Definitely. There's two teams that jump out, or maybe even three that jump out to me in that market. I think Arizona, Baltimore, and the Cubs make sense. You know, those teams are all kind of lurking for like a frontline guy, and I think he'll probably settle with 5 years in that range, so a little shorter than Cease, obviously, and yeah, I think one of those teams makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the whole cross-up with the catcher thing, like, that was what worried me a little bit. But, I mean, I don't know. Everybody makes a mistake every once in a while. I think he'd be a very fun fit if the Giants were to somehow change course. I enjoy Framber. Another lefty I really like, Ranger Suarez, 30 years old. Not frontline stuff, but frontline numbers. The guy just competes. He just wins. I think the Giants need more guys that just go out and get shit done, and they win. His contracts, I've seen a lot of things, like 375. You've seen 115. Kind of, if you had to predict who's in this market, what does that contract look like? So I feel like insiders are kind of all over the place with him for some reason.
Yeah, I think Suarez, King, and then Gallen are kind of in that 3-year range, which should settle around like 25 AAV, maybe even a little more of that. But I think all three of those names are obviously better fits for the Giants than say like a Cease would have been, or Valdez, you know. So I think I think the Giants should be in that like 3-year range, if not like the trade market, right? Obviously, we'll see. Like, I know it'd be a dent in the farm, but like Joe Ryan makes a ton of sense for a team like that, or even like a Mackenzie Gore. I mean, that Mackenzie Gore, like, to the casual fan, you may not think he's much, but like very good underlying numbers, strikeout stuff, and he'll only get better in like a better development system. You know, I think he's one of the more, I wouldn't say underrated because obviously he's a pretty big name, but like I think he's a very big name who could make a very good move for a team.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then, like, calming down after the Amai news breaks for the Giants, you still take a look at this offseason. They have roughly $60 million to spend to stay under the tax, which seems to be the direction they're going to go. If you get Suarez or King or Gallen around that 20 to 25 AAV, then you still have $40 million to spend. So I'm going to assume for the sake of this exercise that Suarez goes a little bit above that, probably a touch out of the Giants' price range. If you could pick one of these arms for the Giants, you got King, you have Gallen. Let's go King and Gallen. Both qualifying offers. Both, I think King's going to come in a little bit cheaper, but Gallen obviously a more proven track record. King probably the higher ceiling. If you're Buster Posey or Cashman, like I don't even know what I'm saying. Let's start with the Buster Posey aspect. You going King or Gallen?
I think it's interesting for sure because they're kind of two different guys. Like King's obviously a sinker sweeper guy, whereas Gallen's more like fastball curveball. But I think with King, there's a little more I mean, they're both risky. Obviously, King missed most of the year with an injury, and then Gallen had just a year from hell, right? And at a horrible time for him, right? Entering his walk here, obviously, but
Yeah.
I think I think King may actually get more AAV just because teams like kind of bank on like the upside stuff, right? Whereas I think Gallen might be a little safer just because like he's kind of avoided that big injury. And we'll see though. I think I could see even Gallen getting like a 2 year with like higher AAV rather than like a 3 year, where I think King will kind of settle on like that 370, 75 range.
Yeah, I think that's what makes Gallen interesting for Giants fans is we've kind of seen him throw. He's had a very good career. Still just 30 years old. I honestly thought he was a little bit older. I get him and Kelly mixed up. But 2021, he throws 23 games, 4.30 ERA. 2022 starts 31 games, 2.54 ERA. 2023 throws 34 games, 3.47 ERA. 2024 throws 28 games, 3.65 ERA. And then, as you said, the year from hell last year throws 33 games, 4.83 ERA. At Chase Field, too, not the most pitcher-friendly place. I think if you're going to go the moderately priced arms option, it would suck to lose draft picks for a shorter-term deal for Gallen. But if you get him like 3 for 60, 3 for 65, I do think it is a perfect fit in San Francisco. So... And then with that, you have like Logan Webb's an innings eater. You got Robbie Ray, honestly, has turned into kind of an innings eater. Very weird to say late in his career. Zach Gallen you can rely on. Landon Roop should take another step up. And then you could still be active in the trade market, which we'll talk about later. But Zach Gallen could be a very fun fit, as could Michael King. But I think the injury history could maybe turn the Giants off. So we'll see. And then I don't want to go dumpster diving here because that's pretty boring. But there's a lot of dumpster dive options as well. We will flip over to the fun part, the hitter aspect. We'll start off with the big-named free agent, Kyle Tucker, projected contract, roughly 10,400. I've seen it might have come down a little bit. What's your thoughts on Kyle Tucker? Is he worth the hype? Is he really a frontline guy that the Giants or Yankees should give 10 years to?
Yeah. You know, it's kind of weird because a lot of these marquee guys, it feels like they don't have like a set market yet. Whereas like I don't know who like the team who has emerged for the Tucker sweepstakes yet really is. Like there hasn't been like one team ahead of the rest. Obviously that might change the winter meetings, but I think he'd obviously help both of our teams. I do think if you're giving him like $400 million after like last year, it might be a little bit risky. Like I don't know if he's in that like A tier of hitters. You can kind of like circle around like 12. Like so I think there's definitely some risk there, obviously, but obviously he'll make any team better. I certainly, as a Yankee fan, prefer him to Bellinger. Obviously the batted ball data is a lot better. He's 2 years younger. He pulls fly balls at a better clip. You know, obviously the defense and speed aspect's a little different, but I certainly think Tucker's a little bit underrated at this point.
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting scenario for the Giants to be in, just focusing on us, because you have a long-term deal to Matt Chapman. I mean, I wouldn't. It's like a mid-term deal. He has 4 years left on that thing. You have Adames for 6 more years. You have Devers for 7 more years. You have Lee for 4 more years, unfortunately. You have Webb for 3 or 4. If you go after Kyle Tucker, like you're essentially done, like spending money for a long time. You can get like those shorter term deals, but you're locked up long term for a very long time. So I guess that's my one hesitation if Tucker, like for some reason, I don't think he will. He's a very good player. He's a very good defender, steals some bags, contact hitter, literally fits everything Buster Posey wants. But if he comes here and isn't great, or like Devers for some reason takes a step back, or Adames takes a step back, like you're kind of screwed because you're locked up financially. Ownership isn't going to go spend Stephen Cohen money. So he's an interesting one. I'd love to be in the sweepstakes. If we got Kyle Tucker, I'd sing his praises. But for that reason, I don't know that the Giants are going to be that involved. I don't really know where I see him going. I know you're a guy better for that, but we'll switch over to Cody Bellinger. Obviously, the Yankees are very interested in keeping him back. Do you think that's a little bit of a smokescreen to kind of keep them in the dark about other moves, or where do you see the Bellinger market heading into winter meetings?
Yeah, I know most Yankee fans want him back, and obviously I wouldn't really complain if he's back either, unless it's like 7-year deal, obviously, which I'm not sure he'll get. But for the last handful of years, the Yankees have kind of been weeding out with Boris clients. You know, obviously they still have Cole and Rodon, but like there's been some tension between Boris and the Yankees front office. I know Imai is a Boris representative, but I kind of do think it's a smokescreen, and if a team is going to emerge, obviously Boris wants top dollar, top years. That's always kind of how he rolls, right? If a team comes out and emerges with like a 7-year deal, I don't see the Yankees going there. And I do think there's definitely a lot of risk. He had a really good year all around, but I'm a little hesitant about like, because if you look before last year, like obviously pre-COVID, he was elite, right? But
Yeah.
kind of those years sandwiched in between, he hasn't been great.
Oh,
So I think there's a lot
he
of
fully got the yips in what 2021,
yeah,
2022. Like
yeah,
he was hitting at like high school stadiums because he couldn't figure out how to hit. But he did have a fun year in New York. I wonder if there's a little bit of interest for the Giants. I wonder if they'll at least talk to him because he does fill a need. Pretty good defense, has some versatility. Could be an interesting fit. I'm not that high on it. Going into Alex Bregman, very interesting market here. He opts out, has a good year with the Red Sox. Feel like it's been quiet for everybody, but I haven't heard a peep about Bregman. I know he's been lifting with Matt Chapman and Drew Gilbert, which I don't read much into. I just post it. But yeah, where do you see this Bregman market going? So I wouldn't say we're a sleeper for him, but I do wonder. You hear about the second base stuff, and he's a vet guy. He likes Matt Chapman. I wonder if he'll be casually involved in the conversations.
yeah. Wouldn't shock me. I know he'll probably get like a 5-year deal, so obviously a little shorter to where like a Tucker would be, say, right? But
Yeah.
again, like there hasn't been a team emerge really in that market. It seems like I kind of think it'll weed out and be similar to last year, where it was like Tigers, Boston was in there, and then the Phillies again, maybe. So I think one of those teams probably makes the most sense for Bregman. We'll see.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I mean, I've talked with you about it off air, but you don't think that contract's going to age that well. Kind of what do you see playing him in the AL East? Because I won't sit here and lie to everybody. Like, I love the Giants. I don't watch that much MLB outside of them, but kind of what did Bregman look like at Fenway Park?
Yeah, well, I think obviously that stadium really fits like his mold, obviously. But if you think about some of the other teams like that would be in on his market, like at a Comerica Park or like even San Francisco, like I don't know if that translates as much as it would in Boston. So the batted ball data hasn't been great. So if you're investing like 5 years, I think like after probably the next 2 years, there might be a lot of like that back end of that deal might be pretty ugly. So I'm not sure. I think if I were the Giants, like if I were kind of man in the offseason, right? I think I'd try to go like frontline starter, add like a couple, 2, 3 relievers, and maybe the trade market, sign one. And then I think like what makes sense for the Giants would be like a righty platoon outfielder. Obviously, you mentioned Bader, Rob
Yep.
Refsnyder. A couple of those names make sense.
Yeah, I do think they're going to go platoon eventually. I talked about it on my off-season preview before this one. Like Bader a lot. I like Ref Snyder, but the defense is an issue, and their defense is, I mean, they can't afford any less defensive production out there this year. Kind of rounding out the free agent class. Feel like we're both not going to be in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes. Very good player, kind of a risky deal, but random report links right after the Giants are not spending 9 figures on a pitcher that they have at least checked in on Kyle Schwarber per John Morosi, the NL home run king, 56 home runs. Looks to be getting like a 5-year deal around the $150 million rate as well. Kind of how do you see a Schwarber contract aging, and then I'll chime in on how it could fit in with the Giants.
I mean, I think those type hitters age pretty well, honestly. Like, obviously, he's not going to be in the field either, which will be less wear and tear. And you think about it, like Nelson Cruz, for example, those older type hitters, they kind of age pretty well. And I think, obviously, the Giants, they kind of have that DH spot clogged up right now. But that would obviously be a good problem to have. You move Eldridge, Devers, get Devers to play first base like more full-time, right? And then, hey, if you sign Schwarber, I think you mentioned it on Twitter, that even opens up a potential lane for like Eldridge as a headliner in a frontline starter deal. So I think that's certainly a thought for the Giants, something I would consider.
Yeah, no, I think if you read into this as a fan and not biased fan, I don't know that it screams the Giants want to sign Kyle Schwarber. They're going to be heavily involved in this sweepstakes. I think I more so read it like, okay, we're going to go check in on Schwarber because we have some serious interest in Eldridge in the trade market. We also pair that with we don't want to spend 9 figures on a pitcher. And then it involves a very intriguing offseason to where do you want to move a 21-year-old top 20 prospect in an organization that has not produced a hitter of that caliber in a very long time. So it's a very interesting conversation. We'll get into it right now with the trades. But I do think that Schwarber news at least opens the door to a potential at least exploring a Bryce Eldridge trade. So going into the trade market, this is the ESPN article. with Jeff Passan, the MLB's best insider. We'll be going through like the top 10 trade candidates. Giants and Yankees are involved in a lot of these. I've gone over trades on mine quite a bit, but starting at the top, both of our fan base will be all over this. We got Tariq Skubal, left-handed pitcher, Detroit Tigers, the back-to-back AL Cy Young winner. Predicted chance of getting traded, Passan has him at 10%. Kind of what's your thoughts on this market? Team fits in order. According to Jeff, he has the Mets, the Dodgers, the Orioles, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Giants. So kind of initial thoughts on Skubal and if you think he gets moved and where.
Yeah, well, I think if he were to get moved, I think the Mets would be the slam dunk favorite. I mean, it just lines up so much for both teams. They have big league ready, young starting pitching. Obviously, the Tigers would target, right? And I think, at first I thought the Tigers would definitely move him. I thought they were like too developed of an organization to not, like kind of what the Astros did with Kyle Tucker last year, where they bank in early, get like a decent return back, and then you take that and go this year, right? But after second thought, I kind of think they might try to play out that deal, because the Tigers still probably might be the favorite for the AL Central this year. We'll see. Or they'll certainly be in contention, but kind of think he'll play out that deal. They'll try to rekindle talks in the offseason, but I know there was reported like a huge gap in those talks, so like I think School will probably land on like a 10-year $450 in that range, so I can't see that team paying him, but
No, that's insane. Like, speak of teams not paying him, that's where I like caution Giants fans. It's like, do you really want to go trade Bryce Eldridge and more? It's probably Eldridge, probably Gonzalez, and you give up potentially like a Roop or a Bird Song or guys like that, and you get Skubal for 1 year, and then is he a Boris guy too?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's a Boris guy, so he's not going to sign the extension, and then you go and sign him 10 years, $400 million, which I think is reckless for any team. It is quite the pill to swallow. So for that reason, like I wouldn't trade Bryce Eldridge for anybody with 1 year of control, not even Skubal, because looking in the future, does Skubal really push you over the hump past the Dodgers? Like, I'm not that convinced that you're going into a 7-game series favorites against the Dodgers and you give up your future for that. So I'm not that convinced for that deal. Going into Ketel Marte, interesting one. He has percent chance of getting traded 40%, which seems very high. Team fits the Pirates, the Giants, number 2, the Phillies, the Mariners, the Royals, the Athletics, and the Mets. I know I've seen you tweet about the Yankees potentially being involved. Kind of what a dream would it be to get Ketel Marte on either of our teams?
I mean, that's a guy you got the farm for, and I don't think you think twice. I think he has 3 years left, still pretty team-friendly deal, obviously. And, I mean, you think obviously like Judge, Ohtani, those type hitters, and Ketel's right behind that in that next tier. He's probably certainly a top 10 hitter. I think every team would be all over him. I know there is a little bit of concerns about like his drive, it seemed like. I know he like took some games off this summer, but that might just be a change of scenery too he needs, We'll see.
Yeah, dude,
he's
he's
so much to
so
like about
good.
Ketel.
He's so good. Last year, hits 28 home runs, hits 283. The year before that, hits 36 home runs. Switch hitter, aura. I mean, it is really fun to watch. Doubt they trade him in division, but I mean, it's the Diamondbacks. You kind of never know with those guys. Intriguing one to say the least. Didn't even realize we were number 2 on that. Going into another trade market, I'm intrigued why Passan doesn't have you guys on many of these lists for the trade market for pitchers. But number 3, Freddie Peralta, my green dot X. If I could pick one guy to trade for in the offseason, it's Freddie Peralta. Predicted chance of getting traded 25%. Team fits Mets, Orioles, Rangers, Giants, Astros, Diamondbacks, Padres. What's your thoughts on Peralta? Do you think the Giants or the Yankees will be involved in those sweepstakes?
I think you said it, right? I think that's perfect fit for the Giants. Definitely makes the most sense, I think, of any team. They get that. He's still on a pretty short deal. Obviously, they don't have to spend a lot for that. And I think there's a lot of needs they'd kind of match up with in Milwaukee. Like, I know you're high on Birdsong still, but I think that's a team that would be all over, like a Birdsong type, get him into their, like, pitching development, reshape that command, obviously, and I could see that as a fit for sure. I think the Giants would definitely be like the favorite to land him if he were to get moved. And I think you mentioned it, the Woodruff QO certainly increases those chances a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes a ton of sense. It's probably not going to take Eldridge. I wouldn't send Eldridge for it. $8 million next year, right in the realm of financial responsibility. And I do think you'd have a good chance of extending him because great buddies with Willy Adames, they're best friends, Logan Webb at the front of that rotation. So I just think it makes a ton of sense. Number 4, Hunter Green, percent chance of getting traded, 10%. This seems like an outside chance, especially with all that control. I mean, it is an unbelievable amount of control, but team fits Padres, Giants, Orioles. I mean, what a dream this would be to get Hunter Green. I think you send Eldridge, and I don't think you think twice about it. Is that crazy to say?
Yeah, certainly not. I think with Green, that's probably more of like a next offseason thing. Whereas then you go into the lockout, and he's obviously a closer year to an extension. And the Reds are certainly not very used to handing out those big type deals, especially for a pitcher, And obviously they're pretty well in that pitching depth right now. So I think trading from their strength and adding like a big time bat, they'd be all over that.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
for
that's
sure.
more of a next offseason thing for sure.
Yeah, it seems like next offseason for sure, but still interesting to think about. We'll go into some Yankees ones. You got Brendan Donovan has been the craze of the trade market so far. Percent chance of getting traded. We got 75% here. Team fits Dodgers, Mariners, Yankees, Red Sox, Pirates, Giants, Royals, Guardians. I mean, that's like half the league right there. But I know you think you have a very good chance at landing him. Kind of what makes him a good fit in New York, and why would the Yankees be kind of a good team to trade with for the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees have kind of been all over him about for the last year now. They had rumors about him at the deadline earlier in this offseason. Now it's picked up again, right? I think obviously St. Louis covets kind of what the Yankees have a lot of, right? Young starting pitching. And obviously 2 years from now, it is a little complicated, right? Because Jazz is in a walk here. There's your second baseman. They just traded for McMahon last offseason, so it kind of creates like a cluster in there. But I think every team would benefit from a Brendan Donovan type. Good contact skills, doesn't strike out. Like any team loves one of those guys. I would be all over it.
It's especially what Buster Posey likes to. I don't know if we're as good of a trade partner, and from every report, it looks like his trade market is very competitive. So I don't know if I see the Giants entering that market. A market I could see the Giants very much entering, the 1B behind Freddie Peralta's Joe Ryan, San Francisco kid, predicted chance of getting traded 50%. Team fits Red Sox, Mets, Orioles, Rangers, Giants, Astros. You're going to kind of see the same teams in here for all these arms. But kind of in your time in the AL, I honestly haven't seen much Joe Ryan live. He threw great against the Giants last year. Kind of what makes Joe Ryan that good? And would you send Bryce Eldridge for him?
Hey, he's just a guy that, I certainly would. I think 2 years from free agency, obviously a pretty cheap deal. I would do it. I know that's obviously a tough pill to swallow, but I think you bank on that front of the line rotation guy, whereas Giants, you can't really, like, obviously I've learned it from the Yankees. Like, penciling in star prospects hasn't worked out great, obviously. So I think especially if you're a team trying to contend like that, you can't, like, reject all these deals for prospects. Whereas, like, Freddie Peralta, I don't think you'd have to include an Eldridge, but for a Joe Ryan type, I think you certainly would. Great fastball, feeds off the moment. I remember there was a game last summer he pitched at Yankee Stadium, dominated the Yankees.
No, he profiles like he's maybe not be at his ceiling yet, but yeah, I just caution some Giants fans. Like, I love Bryce Eldridge as much as the next guy. I think he can be a very good MLB player, but I mean, you look at our track record right now. Joey Bart, top 5 prospect, horrible in the Giants, traded him. You got Matos, has been completely fumbled by the Giants. You got Luciano, can't even get on the field, and San Francisco has yet to hit a home run. So there's just no guarantees with these things. If you can go get an MLB frontline starter to pair with Logan Webb, you have to. Another good, if they want to stay on the cheaper side of things, bat to trade for. Some people might be up in arms about this, but Jarren Duran, outfield Red Sox, percent chance of getting traded 50%. I don't know how good of a fit he'd be in this fan base in San Francisco, but I'm not sure that you can worry about that when you get a player of this caliber. Speed, pretty good defense. I mean, I guess that's an exaggeration now, but contact, very good. Kind of in your experiences playing Jarren Duran, kind of what makes him a good fit for the Giants, and why would the Red Sox want to move off him? I know they have a ton of young guys.
Yeah, I mean, they just have a packed outfield now. It feels like, obviously, he's heading towards free agency. I think he has 2 more years, so it kind of makes sense, lines up with the timeline. But I don't know if I'd love that fit for the Giants. I think he'll cost a pretty big haul, which I don't know if a team should net for that. And I think there's certainly some, I don't know. I'm not sure I love that fit.
Okay. I mean, I trust you. A better fit, I think, and the Giants are number 1 on this if the Guardians were to move Stephen Kwan. And I speak of fan base accepting a guy. Stephen Kwan would, I think, be the highest bought jersey in the stadium if the Giants were to trade for him. They might make the money back strictly on that. Percent chance of getting traded, 25%. How good is Stephen Kwan, man?
Yeah, I mean, I think I know he's a Bay Area kid. I think it'd be a great fit. You know, good defender, good base runner, doesn't strike out. he's certainly a guy. I think I've kind of been anti like bat to ball guys, like not much power. But I think after watching this season, like two of the better teams, right, Milwaukee and Toronto, they kind of have those guys like Bryce Terangs, Caleb Durbins, like Ernie Clements, Nathan Lucas, the guys that just like don't really K and stuff. I think every team like needs one of those, and certainly like you need to blend that with like power guys. So I think that would be a great fit for the Giants.
Oh,
2
yeah.
years from free agency. I don't think, or no, it's 1 year now, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. Let's get into
I don't
some
think it wouldn't break the bank for sure. I think that's a great fit.
be so fun. I mean, fans would love it. I'd love it. Let's get into some Yankees potential fits here. Just going on this. If you want to read this article that Jeff passed on ESPN one, it is very encouraging seeing how many team fits the Giants are on this one. Trying to find some Yankees fits here. Edward Cabrera is a very interesting name. Percent chance of getting traded 40%. Seems a little high for me, but Yankees listed as the front runner there with the Giants in third place. Edward Cabrera is good, man.
Very good. I think you're banking on that upside too. Like his pure stuff is certainly like top of the food chain in baseball, I would say. And I believe he has 3 years, I think. So obviously there's some health concerns. He missed a couple of full seasons, but I think every team would. I think he might be one of the more underrated trade candidates, and he's going to cost a lot. I think, obviously, like one of our teams, I could see that, and I know the Marlins are kind of looking for that like big younger like big time power bat. So like, I know you don't know about Eldridge for like a Edward Cabrera because there's a little bit of risk, right? But like,
yeah, it's
that
close.
Kind of fits their profile, I think, and they have a ton of pitching. I think they'll move one of him or Alcantara, so we'll see who it is.
Yeah, it's insanely fun. Just going to go through. We don't have to go in-depth on these guys. Other team fits the Giants are in the top three on. You got Jeff McNeil, Jeff McFeeble, in Frank's words. You have got Brady Singer on the Reds. You have got Sandy Alcantara for both of our teams. You have Luis Robert Jr. in the big 2025 Giants #1. I mean, this guy shouldn't even be on trade lists anymore. He's been on the trade block for so long. He's got to be getting tired on the trade block.
Yeah, I mean, that's been like 3 full years now, it feels like. And I do think he's obviously like a scenery candidate, but like,
yeah.
How much of that can you say? Like, it's been a couple bad years now for him. Like, I think the White Sox had their time to cash in on that, and they kind of fumbled. So, like, I don't really know what you'd get out of him. And I think he has like an option. He has a this year and then an option. So, like,
it's the weirdest thing ever.
I feel like they kind of missed their window on that, though.
Yeah, you keep it. I mean, because they could have gotten a bag for him if they moved off him at the right time. That's kind of the dangers of. I mean, obviously not a comparable situation, but Bryce Eldridge's value is the highest it'll probably ever be right now. So it's interesting to think about. Cronenworth on the trade block, interesting. Don't really care. Padres are playing Moneyball. We talked about Edward Cabrera. Brandon Lau is an interesting fit in San Francisco if they wanted to go the second base route. Yeah, that kind of wraps up. Chris Bubick, interesting arm there from the Royals. But that kind of wraps up the trade ones. I will link this article, or just look up the article. It's a Jeff Passan article. According to Bob Nightingale, Chicago Cubs veteran Matthew Boyd will pitch for Team USA. That's cool.
Not a needle mover at all. It's going to be the same as a couple years ago.
Yeah, let's wait. Yeah, let's wake up a little bit there. Who's managing that team? Is it DeRosa again?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised he didn't get a manager job.
Yeah, that feels inevitable in the next couple of years. I thought Atlanta made a lot of sense, but
yeah,
the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we made a little bit of sense. Going to get into some Q&A here. Once again, feel free to send in these questions every podcast. We will start with some Yankees ones for Grayson since we just did a lot of Giants talk in the trade market. I am excited about the trade market. I do think there's a good chance that the Giants could make a trade this month, which could be fun. First response from Steve Merck1. He says, should we sign Edwin Diaz now? You have Bednar/Diaz would become the next Mariano Rivera and Robertson. That seems like quite the hot take there.
Obviously, I'd love Edwin Diaz. I'd certainly, he's one of those guys where if you sign him, you don't complain. But if you don't, it's like, that's whatever. Like, you don't really want to give that long of a deal to a reliever. But I don't know if I can see the Yankees in that range. He'll probably land like the same deal he opted out of, which was like 5 years, $100 million, I'm guessing. Or I kind of think the Yankees are starting to sour on the reliever market. They might be more active in the trade market. There's a lot of good options in the trade market. So wouldn't complain about Edwin Diaz at all. I'd love it. It'd create a dominant tandem in the back end, but I just don't really see the fit.
Yeah, it's going to be a very fun, I love free agency, but this trade market I feel like seems hotter than recent years. So that's going to be
Definitely.
fun next week. I don't know, .14 says, is there a chance either Jones or Dominguez gets dealt, and if so, for who? Kind of interested to hear your perspective on this.
I think one of them will certainly get dealt, and I think it's kind of another prime example of the Yankees kind of missing that like prime window to move one of their guys. Like I don't like the way they've handled Dominguez at all. They've kind of driven him into the ground, obviously. And for Jones, like they could have moved him at last year's deadline. I'm not upset they didn't, but I think like his value will never be higher at that moment. And I think there's a couple teams that certainly make sense for one of those fits. It's like Miami makes sense. They need kind of like a middle of the order like upside bat with like 30 home run potential. Like if they move off one of their starters, I could certainly see. There's a couple other teams that make sense too.
Yeah, it's interesting watching the Yankees kind of haven't been great with prospects, nor have we, and that's where it's like I caution some fans with the Eldridge thing. Like there's just I think people are expecting this kid to hit 35 home runs next year and like an 880 OPS. Like it is not that simple, especially for a 21-year-old who didn't play college ball. So cool to hear that. This is from the Zrak Take. Who is an under the radar player you want the Yankees to sign or trade for?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of that question, I immediately think of like the trade market for relievers. I think there's a lot of under the radar type names that could become available. Some of the bottom of the barrel teams could move off those guys. I know the Rockies have a handful of relievers I'd be interested in. Seth Halverson's one of the names, Victor Vodnik. Good fastballs. And, it's obviously like pitching there. It's just so tough to throw your breaking stuff. It doesn't break at a sharp of a degree, obviously. And it's just like that pitching development's terrible. I think the Yankees could really get more out of those guys. And they have made some moves with Colorado in the last couple of years. Obviously, last trade deadline, Jake Bird was one of those names. Hasn't worked yet, but there's still a couple of years left on that deal. I think it'll work better this year. And then another name that comes to mind is Trevor McGill. Not really an underrated name, but, Milwaukee's kind of without him down the stretch. I think they'd feel comfortable moving off him. Abner Uribe's kind of emerged that back-end option now. Nick Mears, all those type guys, Jared Koenig. So I think he could become a name. And then another name might not make sense now, but like Jose Ferrer. I'm not even sure you know that name, but
I don't. You're just throwing out names right now. But if I had to guess, one of these names becomes a Yankee just off your knowledge. Like that's my guess.
But I do see them being very active in the reliever market. I think they're a little hesitant on paying that top flight chain for some of these guys.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we'll probably be around there too. If we're gonna go cheap, we can't have Sam Hentages. Can't have him open the season as the closer.
I actually like that signing, by the way.
It's a very good signing. But I just love the Bagley article. It was like they're still looking to upgrade the bullpen. Like you even needed to add that sentence. Like I would sure hope so. We got some other fun ones. Let's see. From Nanny222, thoughts on Anthony Volpe, keeping him or trading for a new shortstop?
I mean, the way I look at things, a 3-year time period is like enough to evaluate a player, and it's been 3 full years now, and I don't expect the Yankees to move off him. I think this will kind of be like his make or break year, but I don't think they can pencil him. I know he's going to miss like the first month of the season. He won't be there when you guys play them.
That's a fiasco.
Surgery, but you can't pencil him in as like the guy this year. Like I mean, I think we saw how that played out last year. You can't do that again, and I do think he'll be here. They won't move off him, but it's kind of a make or break year, certainly.
Yeah, that's another prospect that was he a top 10 prospect, top 5?
He was top 5 even, yeah.
Yeah,
There's
top
so many
5
guys
prospect
they
that just hasn't really panned out for the Yankees. So it's another food for thought there. Kind of combined. We're kind of combining 2 questions here from Alvi Braya and DXNAN_44. What is the limit for Cash and Boone? And as a Yankees fan, when do you think our window is up till we're mid again?
Yeah, I mean, the Yankees are kind of one of those teams where the window never necessarily closes. Obviously, you can kind of say the same for the Dodgers, some of the mega market teams. So I don't think it'll ever fully close, but like with the Judge, Cole window, Stanton, obviously, right? You're kind of looking at like 2 years here, I think, right now, And obviously going off Boone, I think the way Cashman's kind of done it, each manager he's had, he gives him like a 10-year run, right? And so they obviously inked Boone to another 2-year last offseason, so he's got this year and next year. So I think he'll play out those 2 years, and if they don't win anything, right, he'll be out and they'll go evaluate another manager. But as far as Cashman is, time's been up. I don't think it's ever going to happen until he steps away. Obviously, he's kind of locked in for life until he wants to go, but I don't know. A lot of the blame I feel like he deserves.
Yeah, no, for sure. Kind of wrapping this one up. This is out there. This is fun. I mean, I can't even pronounce some. Can't even pronounce some of these units. You got to see this guy's profile pic. It's kind of firing me up. MOSSTBSS said, "What would we give up for Tatis Jr.?" I'm curious what a trade package looks like in your eyes here. We're just spitballing. Obviously, we have no background research right now.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously the dream scenario, right? I think that's a guy where you don't say no to any prospect in your system. I think you start with a Ben Rice, makes a lot of sense for the Padres. I love Ben Rice, but I think he'd certainly be in that deal. The Padres need like a kind of franchise type catcher. They need like obviously a middle of the order bat, and then from there you go to starters. I mean, it's hard to create a package. It would be ginormous, obviously, but that's a guy you do it for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. That kind of wraps it up with the Yankees ones. Well, if you help me with some of these, what free agent pitcher, best option if we don't sign a 9-digit contract? I kind of said Gallen, kind of going off that. We'll go to I don't know what to put there. 3421 says, why do the Giants have to be cheap if they spent so much money on Adames, Chappie, and Devers? I mean, it's ridiculous. The San Francisco market. It's the real estate Johnsons, but I mean, even I'm pretty critical. They're still spending like a good bit of money here. Like it's not like the A's. They're just kind of caught in the middle ground, which they've been caught in the middle ground for my entire lifetime. But Adames, Chapman, and Devers, and Webb, and that's a good enough core to try to go get some guys. So it's frustrating. I'm actually curious your thoughts on this one from Logan _ FENYS. Thoughts on Real Muto as a free agent signing? Bailey is good but inconsistent with the bat. Two-part question here for you. How do you see ABS impacting Patrick Bailey's value, and how do you like JT Real Muto? Because I do think that could be an interesting fit.
Yeah, I think ABS will obviously hurt Bailey a little bit, but not as big as some people think. It's still going to be like a judgment call in real time. Like you don't have like the iPads up and all that where you see the pitch. Like you don't have that long. So and you only get a couple a game, right? Unless you retain them. So. Yep. I think it may hurt, but not as big as people think. And I think Real Muto would actually be a great fit for both of our teams. We're both kind of in that same spot where we have like good defensive catchers. Wells and Bailey are both like top 5 by most metrics defensively, but kind of need that platoon bat. Like you can't pencil them in it necessarily anymore, like offensively.
I mean, yeah, no, exactly. And like Jesus Rodriguez, the former Yankees, an interesting guy there to back him up. But if you could just have Bailey hit right-handed pitching, I mean, he hit pretty well down the stretch. Just have him focus on that. Real Muto just adds kind of a bench piece that can hit lefties. Just a fun player, pretty good. Kind of could get the ball rolling on Bailey. You could almost feed the hot hand there, which I'd enjoy. Bailey. It's a very interesting conversation that will never stop for Giants fans. Is Kyle Tucker still being considered by the Giants? Dude, I have no clue. I'm not Giants SF Central. I don't have fake sources. I mean, seriously, I don't think anybody knows what the hell is going on with Tucker's market.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does. I'm sure we'll hear some more in the coming days, I guess, but there's not one team who's I feel like every market you kind of feel has a team that's kind of like the front runner, whereas this you don't feel that one bit. I mean, I'd still say the Giants. I'd say the Yankees, obviously. Phillies, Toronto, maybe even. It seems like they're really open up.
Red Sox? Oh no, not Red Sox.
Probably not. But
yeah, it's very I'm stoked for winter meetings. Hopefully, some news starts flowing. Do you think he signs winter meetings or no?
I'm not sure. I think there's going to be a lot of top flight free agents that will, and certain trade stuff. I'm not so sure about him. I'd say Schwarber's probably a safer bet though. Emai too.
Yeah, he's got to go, but Boras might bring that thing down to the last second, so you never know. From Diesel _B _Holler, do you think the Giants try to bring Rogers back? He was a great fit before the deadline. I would love to bring Rogers back. I think his market's going to be a little more competitive than people think. It's a sub-3 ERA guy that can legitimately throw every day if you need him to, so I'd love to see him back, but he's also not really a guy you want to pencil in as your closer, and I think he'd probably be the closer if he came back as it stands right now. Interesting fit. Who should be in center field? Move Lee to right. I think they do need to move Lee to right, but they might not have the financial flexibility to do so. We've talked about Bader. We've talked about Refsnyder. Kind of what do you see with Refsnyder? I've never really done a deep dive. I know he hits lefties well. Defense is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, he crushes lefties, obviously. I saw that with the Yankees all year, but I know he's obviously versatile, right? But the defense is not great. And so I think Bader would probably be a better fit for the Giants, but I could obviously see both of them, right? Platooning with maybe Drew Gilbert if they don't spend on an outfielder, obviously,
Yeah, I almost don't know if they're going to spend on an outfielder. It seems like they like Gilbert. They have, like, Matos can still compete a little bit, and Encarnacion. They still believe, and I imagine one of those guys gets moved. I hope Matos gets moved to. What's a team that needs, like, young outfielders?
Yeah.
I mean,
the White Sox maybe, like.
yeah, White Sox. I just want to see that kid excel, man. I'm very clear. That's probably my favorite guy on the 40-man roster. I think we've completely screwed up that whole thing. I think Giants fans are way too hard on him, but I think there's something there, and I hope he taps into it because the kid's awesome. Talked about this a bunch. What starting pitcher would you like to see brought in, trade or free agent? Give me Freddie Peralta, baby. It's a good one. Colton _J Galea. Who do you think the Giants are almost for sure going to get, trade or free agent? I feel like Gallen's kind of pointing there right now. If I had to give like one huge probability, I think I'm going to go Gallen.
Could see
What
Gallen.
are you going with?
I would. Peralta becomes available. I think that would obviously make the most sense.
Yeah.
Kind of for both sides, but I think definitely like a Gallen would be a comfortable pick for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's just nobody who's like the Giants are for sure going to sign. In light of the news yesterday about payroll, do you think we can still get someone like Amai? Probably not. I don't really think that's a smokescreen either, but I wonder, like, who's going to be involved in that market outside of you guys? Are the Mets kind of involved?
I definitely thought Toronto was, but they pivoted. Obviously, they paid 2 starters, so they're out of that now. The Mets make a little bit of sense, but I don't know if I could see it. I've kind of been plugged in with the Mets, and a lot of their people don't really feel that way. So the Phillies, maybe?
I mean, yeah, so if it's just the Yankees and a ton of fringe candidates, I wonder if we just re-enter briefly, and if the Yankees somehow get cold feet and don't want to pay him, maybe his market goes down somehow. So, like, there's always a chance. The 27-year-old Buster Posey's probably not pleased about this whole thing. I wouldn't put anything past Buster, but I would definitely put the odds under 10%. I see we want second base, any free agents that match our team or trade options. Not many free agents out there. We've talked about Brendan Donovan. Don't know that Giants are going to be getting that. Got a lot of Brendan Donovan questions. I'd say it's probably more likely as a Yankee than a Giant. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, but I think that's a good fit for the Giants too. You know,
he'd be so good in Oracle Park. Why are we calling and wanting to spend on hitters, not pitchers? I mean, it's beyond me, but we talked about it. We've talked about it all podcasts. It opens the door to a Bryce Eldridge trade. If you see the Giants go out, when does winter meeting start? Monday?
It starts like Sunday night, but pretty much Monday, yeah.
Right, so we got Monday through Wednesday. If you go out and see the Giants sign a Kyle Tucker, a Cody Bellinger, a Bo Bichette, a Kyle Schwarber, it probably means they're going to move Bryce Eldridge. That's my thoughts on it, because they're going to go get an arm. So I imagine if you see an early signing from the Giants over $100 million, I would not be stunned to see Eldridge go like later in the week. You think that's a crazy take?
I don't think so. Maybe not that soon, but if they obviously do pivot, I'm sure they kind of start that process.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. We'll wrap it up here. On March 25th, we got Logan Webb versus who's your guys' starter day when we go Fried? Yeah, you got Webb versus Fried. Who do you got taking that game on Netflix?
I mean, the Giants had the matchup advantage, I guess, right? But I mean, the Yankees have hit Webb pretty well, but I could see a lot of runs scored. I know it'll be probably pretty cold that night, but it should be a fun, you know. Vitello era begins. The Yankees never start the season on the West Coast ever. That might be the first time as far as I've been alive, I think. Should be a lot of fun. It's
an interesting storm. You got Vitello versus Boone. Like, if they have Phil Cuzzy behind the dish, he's in for a long night. You have, I mean, a good chance Amai throws that Saturday for one of our teams. Kyle Tucker could be making his debut. Like, this could be a banger game on Netflix.
It's the only game that night too, which is awesome.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Yankees win that game 5-0. We still won't score runs on left-handed pitchers, and then we'll get after it on Saturday. Amai will shove it down our throats. But I think I'll have Grayson back on to preview that game in March, but really appreciate you coming on. Go follow him on all of his accounts. You will want to stay in tune with the Yankees. Very similar offseason to the Giants, and we play each other to start the season off, so thanks for coming on, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right.